This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Southampton Select Board for Tuesday, June 20th at about 6:01 p.m. We can start and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a quorum tonight. Joy is coming, she said, and I haven't heard from Stephen, but hopefully he's on his way as well, but we'll muddle through otherwise. We have one document to focus on tonight before we do open time for the public, since we have to have it notarized. So I'm going to ask that we pick that up first. And that is the conservation restriction for 235 Pomeroy Meadow Road. Everybody had it in their packets. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at it. This is the, let me see here briefly for the public who's not with us tonight. If I had the first page, that would be nice. Somewhere here. Anyway, it's about 79 acres, I believe, on Pomeroy Meadow Road, been commonly known as Upper Pomeroy Meadow or the Courtney property.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a combination, I believe, of both CPC as well as Kestrel Land Trust. And so this is to actually accept the conservation restriction and put it into final signature, right?
Correct, yeah. So this is finally been approved at the state level by the EEA's legal counsel, so this is the final version.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the conservation restriction and put it into final signature.
Okay. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right. Motion's approved. So let us do that and be done, and then we'll have Robin, thank you for being here to notarize tonight.
Yep.
Do we only need 3 signatures, or?
That constitutes a quorum, so that will be fine. Just that one page.
Just
Chris.
one?
Yeah.
Okay. Unusual. Just one page. Right, so just to note that this property is part of the Drinking Water Supply Protection Program, and it's really going to be under the purview of the Southampton Water Commissioners. So that is a good thing to protect our water supply, obviously, and our precious aquifer. Okay, all right, with that, thanks everybody. Anybody here for open time for the public? Robin Stevens here, if you want to grab his signature. Stephen, would you mind signing on your way in?
He didn't vote, though.
Oh, he didn't vote, I'm sorry, never mind.
Well, I can still vote. The select
Just
board.
to approve the conservation restriction for the Pomeroy Meadow property. Could you say aye?
If I had not.
The majority of the select board voted to approve it.
The select board voted to approve it, and so we'll add your name if you can do that. That's fine. Okay, yes, Tammy, go ahead.
Tammy Walunas, College Highway, Southampton Historical Society. So last time I was here, I had asked about ARPA funds because the last bill that we received went over by $356. One of the parts that was estimated at $1,200 actually was $1,320. So what I'm asking is, when is the next special town meeting, because now I have to go to CPC and get approval from them, and then bring it to get approval from you guys to put it on the board, or the warrant, get an article, and then have the town vote on paying my husband the $356 that he's already paid out to complete the job at the Clark Chapman House basement, ARPA 23-34.
How much was the full ARPA award? I don't remember.
The full award was for $12,425.
And we're $300 over that?
$356. In order, and that's not, the invoice has no time of labor on it or anything. It's just the parts that were bought.
And is that the last bill for the whole job? Or
Yep.
you've got more bills coming in?
No, that's it. That's the last one. I sent in my completion report.
Well, we will be meeting later tonight, and we'll have to take a look and see if we can accommodate that or not. I'm not going to make any comments until we have a review of the whole ARPA
Okay.
strategy.
So with that being asked, when would a special town meeting?
We haven't gotten that far yet. It feels like we just got through a town meeting.
Correct.
I mean, we're hoping to have one in the fall, most likely, but I mean, it wouldn't be, unless we have something urgent to do, and Ed, maybe you know better than I do, but I'm not guessing we'd have one before November.
There's nothing that has come up, so I would say we're in the normal December, January timeframe at this point.
Well, I mean, at the earliest, I think it would be November, if something came up, but right now, there's nothing.
Okay. So we
needing our
basically,
attention.
we're waiting until November to get paid. Okay.
Unless Clark Chapman can find some money out of their coffers. Robert?
Hi, Robert Floyd, College Highway. I'm here as a cemetery commissioner, and David Wells, Judith Miller Conlin, cemetery commissioners, and myself would like to commend Ed Gibson, our town administrator, for placing the order for the water piping in the cemetery. We met last week. They are going to put all new piping in. We decided not to heavy load the far end, north end of the cemetery, kind of a skip over, a section or so, spread it out. They may hook it up to section 4, the more southern part of the cemetery. The water commissions, they gave us the $1,200, $1,300 piece of equipment, backflow preventer. The landscape company agreed to drain all the pipes for free the first time, so it's quite teamwork. And yesterday, there were at least 9 vehicles.
Yeah, they were busy working.
In
I
the
went by.
cemetery.
They were there.
So,
Yeah.
again, we want to commend Ed for getting this done. Thank you.
Good, all right.
Thank you.
People will be happy to have some water eventually in the next month or so, maybe at the cemetery, and be able to,
Should be back
You there?
in place by the end of June.
oh yeah, that's great. All right, very good. All right, if nobody else, I think we'll move right into our first presentation tonight, which is the MS4 Annual Public Presentation from Ty and Bond, and this is Kelly Doherty? No.
Tracy Adamski.
Okay, we have the wrong person, sorry.
But I'm here with Kelly Doherty
There we go.
and Randall Kemp, we've been working with as we
All
go
right.
through compliance for the MS4 program.
Very good.
And that's what we're here to talk about today.
Okay, it's all yours.
Thank you. So purpose of the presentation today, and we've been here before, so this is an update on Southampton's ongoing stormwater management program, how we're complying, or how the town is complying with EPA's requirements under the Municipal Separate Storm Sewer Program, the MS4 program, looking at the past, which we're just wrapping up now, which was permit year 5, and looking at permit year 6, and also to solicit any feedback from folks today. So we always talk about, why are we talking about stormwater? So the main concern is that stormwater falls on paved surfaces and lawns, and then that which doesn't soak into the ground will flow onto our roads, into our storm drain systems, into our wetlands and other resource areas. And oftentimes it has the potential to pick up pollutants along the way. And EPA started with addressing the point source pollution, so, pipes directly from industry, and then they moved to non-point, recognizing that is a significant contributor to pollution within our resource areas. And this is just, there's been a number of studies that, identified non-point source pollution as being a source of sediments, trash, oils, and other pollutants in our resources. So EPA set up the small MS4 stormwater system that started back in 2003. Southampton became part of the program. It's jointly administered by EPA as well as Mass DEP, and it covers what are called urbanized areas. And in Southampton, there's like,
Where is that?
as you have probably seen this map before, there's certain areas that kind of sneak into Southampton that pull you into the program. So the latest permit that we're working under came out back in 2016 and became effective in 2018, in which we submitted a notice of intent that identified all the different requirements. And if you recall, this permit had very specific requirements that the town had to comply with. The town is authorized under this general permit for the non-point discharges. This is generally a 5-year permit. We're in permit year 5, but EPA has administratively extended the permit until a new general permit is issued. We don't know exactly when that will be yet. And as part of this, there's also a stormwater management plan that is updated annually that identifies all the work that has occurred within Southampton during that previous year.
So that June 30th date is not true from 2022 then, the expiration?
So, yeah, the next bullet underneath was, so the original authorization expired in June 30, but in May of 2022, it was administratively continued until a new permit is issued.
Okay.
Last time we waited about 10 to 15 years. So we'll see. And the way EPA has structured this permit is like there's a 10-year compliance window. So there's still compliance activities that happen beyond permit year 5. These are the minimum control measures that the town is required to comply with, and we'll talk about each of these in a few minutes here. But public education and outreach, as well as public involvement and participation, recognizing that, everything, what we all do on our own homes and out in the world have an impact on non-point source pollution. Illicit discharge detection and elimination, and that's looking at, connections or other discharges into the system that are not stormwater. And then looking at our development projects, so managing construction site stormwater, as well as requiring best management practices for new developments to address stormwater, so that addresses both the water quality and the quantity to minimize flooding, as well as good housekeeping and pollution prevention, which includes things like your street sweeping, catch basin cleanings, and just overall managing, waste and chemicals at municipal properties. So Southampton also is subject to total maximum daily load requirements. All of our communities here in Western Mass that fall under the EPA permit are within the Long Island Sound TMDL for nitrogen. So there's some additional requirements to address the nitrogen loading. And then there's a few impaired waters within Southampton itself, including Pequot Pond and Manhan River. Mm-hmm. So looking back at permit year 5, for public education and outreach, you're part of the Connecticut River Stormwater Coalition, and there's a lot of public outreach and messaging that happens through that with the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. So there's annual messages for residences, businesses, and commercial facilities. And then there's public involvement and participation. So there's the stormwater management plan, which is available online, and we're in the process of incorporating permit year 5 activities into that now. There was the National Prescription Drug Take Back Day, the Town Rain Barrel Program that is occurring this year, and then this annual public meeting is one of those requirements for public involvement and participation to let people know what's going on. And then under the illicit detection and elimination program, there was wet weather screening that happened last year at 4 outfalls where we've been doing, every year we've been doing a little bit more assessment of some of the outfalls. And there were a few that were identified as having higher nitrogen. So we went out there during wet weather and sampled for, the components that we see here, and no evidence of illicit discharge was identified there. For the construction site and post-construction stormwater management, you updated your bylaws a few years back, and so there's continued project review and enforcement activities. This past year, there was one violation of the stormwater bylaw that was issued by, I think, Planning Board and Concom, and then 3 cease and desist orders that were issued to address erosion and stormwater related issues. So your bylaw, like you have the capacity and, the laws in place to be able to address issues as they come up. Mm-hmm. And then the other component of this was identifying a retrofit inventory. So this is looking at municipal properties. We kind of focused around those urbanized areas and identified 5 sites and came up with some concepts for potential BMP retrofits. So there's a report that was done that identified those concepts. We have, some high-level opinions of probable cost. So as improvements may be made to these sites, you can do some retrofits to improve stormwater there. That being said, as work is happening along municipal streets, there's opportunities to incorporate retrofits there. So the East Street Bridge reconstruction incorporated storm scepters, which is a retrofit that removes total suspended solids from stormwater management. So I think that gets you, your requirement for retrofits. For, one of the requirements you'll see is like in permit year 6, you had to have a retrofit installed. And this is something that will meet those requirements. So again, like as new projects are happening, it's just something to keep in mind, opportunities to improve the stormwater management as well.
Mm-hmm. Just could I ask a quick question on that one? I'm a little surprised at the Whittemore Conservation Area. Is that because it's located near a bunch of housing compared to some of the other conservation areas, or?
Yeah, it's got a large outfall that,
Randall?
Oh, sorry.
Thank
you. Randall Kemp, Highway Superintendent. I believe Whittemore was identified because it is sort of toward the bottom of the hill at off Pomeroy Meadow, and all of the stormwater discharges out behind Meadow Lane, and it's quite a discharge, and there's some erosion out there. So I believe that's why that one was identified.
Okay. Yep.
Thank you.
And then related to good housekeeping and pollution prevention practices, there was standard operating procedures that were developed to, identify like proper use of herbicides and pesticides, requirements for catch basin cleanings, requirements for storage of chemicals. And so those are, all being implemented. Then there's the annual requirements of catch basin cleaning and street sweeping, as well as record keeping. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of record keeping that goes along with this new permit. And as we do the annual reports that are due every September, there's a fair amount of information that's incorporated into those that, we pull from the records that, the work that we've done, as well as the work that, Randall has been keeping track of.
Mm-hmm. Question. So
Street sweeping.
Into your
is
mic, Dan.
Oh, yeah. Street sweeping is a requirement of this to participate in this?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's not an opt-in for participation, so it's like it's a permitting requirement, but street sweeping takes off, either leaf litter or sediments that could otherwise potentially go into the streams.
Thank you.
Excuse me, just to follow up on that. Were you saying that your inspection found us in compliance with street sweeping and catch basin cleaning and so on?
Well, that's something that we look at every September as we start to pull together the annual reports.
In September,
Yep.
right? Because I know Randall's been struggling with kind of a half a team, and
So for the general permit, they're focused on the urbanized areas. So it's an opportunity to focus resources in those locations and then, prioritize where you need to do that efforts. This is just a laundry list of some of the requirements that, or the reporting requirements, the annual requirements through this general permit, just so you get a sense that there's a lot of things that the town, and I'll say Randall has been, on the front end of the front lines of this, addressing for EPA. So as we look forward to permit year 6, if you might remember in the past years, we've had a number of reports that had to be developed. Those are pretty much done and behind us. So now it's a lot of like the same, you just need to keep doing the public education and outreach, the opportunities for public involvement and participation, continuing assessment of the MS4 system to make sure that there's not new illegal connections into the system. And then, continued use of your current tools, so the bylaws and enforcement actions that you have, or enforcement opportunities that you have, to make sure that new construction is complying and making sure that erosion and sediment controls are being maintained on construction sites, and that once construction is completed, that there's best management practices that are addressing stormwater runoff for both the quantity of runoff, but also making sure that it's treating the stormwater as well. And, it's the continued street sweeping, catch basin cleaning, and other maintenance and record keeping. So there's also impaired water requirements. We talked about the TMDL for the Long Island Sound nitrogen. There's also requirements for phosphorus. A couple years ago, Pioneer Valley Planning Commission completed a source identification report that covered both nitrogen and phosphorus. And these are opportunities to target some of the retrofits and some future improvements. Nothing that needs to happen like immediately at this point, but these are things just to kind of keep in mind as you're making improvements to certain projects or to certain sites, or making roadway improvements, where there's opportunities to improve the stormwater as well. So, currently you are actively meeting the MS4 requirements. That should say permit year 5. The annual report is to be submitted this September. So we'll be, working with Randall on that in another couple of months. And looking forward, again, it's more of the same at this point. So it's continuing the public education outreach, continuing to keep track of everything that you're doing. The MS4 map and catchment investigations are pretty much done at this point, but if any new outfalls or new infrastructure is identified, that can be incorporated into the mapping. And we do expect a new permit to be coming out, or at least a new draft permit to be coming out sometime soon-ish, at which point, we'll be evaluating that for what that means for the town. There was a big change between the 2003 permit and the 2016 permit. We don't know yet what that's going to look like for this next round. But, we anticipate that that'll be coming shortly. And that wraps up our presentation for today. So I don't know if anyone has any further questions.
Yeah, no, good overview. Thank you. Yeah.
I just have a question. As a neophyte, I think about the pond we have in town, and
John, Dan, speak into your mic. Just keep it close to you.
all right.
You don't
So,
need it, but that's okay.
so as a neophyte of this board, I have a couple questions about Pequot Pond and questions about two things relating to it. Does anything to do with the water treatment that we do to eliminate what am I? Is that the word I'm looking for? Yeah, vegetation, yes. Does that feed into this, or is that a separate thing?
So that is separate. I
Okay,
mean,
cool.
So I will say
Thanks.
that improvements to stormwater can help with that, but that's a separate program.
Okay, thank you.
I believe that the herbicide program they do in Pequot Pond
Yep.
is permitted through the Conservation Commission.
Yeah. I just was wondering if there's any connection between the things we're talking
Randall,
about.
don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, John?
Randall, what is your funding source for all these requirements that you have to do under this permit?
Currently, we are funded under the general fund under a separate line item for stormwater.
Right, so because somebody else, for all the right reasons, decided that our little section of Southampton has to abide by this, it's another burden on the taxpayers, where other communities look at, and this is because of water that doesn't run off, correct?
No, it is because,
Because we
it's
have
because
blacktop.
of runoff.
Right, so you take the commercial properties that are primarily blacktopped, that have water just running off, causes this issue, versus the homeowners that have lawns that absorb the water and the water doesn't go off. A lot of communities assess an individual tax based on what their runoff rate is to support this program, so that it doesn't fall on the burden of the general taxpayers, which, as we know, we're limited in our funds to start with. So we've talked about this for at least 2 budget cycles since I've been here, and Randall's brought up every single time that we need to figure out what the cost of this program is, and then determine whether or not we're going to just put a separate tax out there to support this unfunded mandate.
Well, we definitely need to do something because the street sweeper's still sitting idle in the garage waiting for
That's what,
a
270?
motor.
270,000 to replace?
For a new one, yeah, but we didn't even, with the limited funds, we didn't even make it onto the capital plan. So I'm trying to find a drive motor for a 1996 street sweeper. As you can imagine, they're getting harder and harder to find, so the person I've got looking for it is not having a lot of success. So we've opted to try and rebuild the one that was in it, and I mean, this is getting a little ridiculous.
I can only imagine that whenever the next version of the permit comes out, there's going to be more requirements, more obligations, additional burdens to do. So I don't think we can afford to continue to kick this can down the road.
No, and I think it's a part of an application that came in. Ed put in an application on the ARPA tonight to talk about, too, so, related to this.
Just to throw this out before somebody asks, I've also reached out to several street sweeping companies for proposals to get this work done, to see how much it costs. But a lot of them are still busy doing their rounds. I would assume that I'm going to hear from somebody soon because they must be finishing up the spring street sweeping and other
And you're
towns.
only one more, street sweeping, you're only responsible for the town roads.
Correct.
College Highway for the portion that belongs to the state takes care of.
Correct.
Yeah.
Is it all the town roads or just the ones that are considered urban?
Well, we've historically done all the roads because it's something, when I got the position, I was really surprised how much people want all of the streets swept. So
Yeah, I'm just trying to differentiate between the requirement and the desire. Like, a lot, many people may desire to have all the streets swept. That's cool.
Right.
But with the requirement, according to this, is the I guess what you deem the urban areas, if we were just to get down to like exactly what we had to do.
right, and if I have to contract out for it, that may be what we do, is only the urbanized areas. Which, I don't know if you can go back to
Yep, I can.
the picture. It's based on population density. So you'll see it's like Brickyard Road where we have the presidential subdivisions and Pomeroy Meadow, and then out near the Easthampton and Holyoke borders where we kind of bleed in from their population densities.
Yep. Okay, good. Any other questions? Anybody?
Nope.
All right. Stephen, anything? No?
Thank you.
All right. Thanks very much.
very much.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming. And glad we're at least in compliance at this point in time, so that's a good thing. So thanks to Randall and team for for doing that. I know you've had a lot of paperwork to follow on this one, so appreciate all that.
I think we're
right.
just about to find out.
And thanks for coming, and we'll see you next year, I guess. All right, moving on here, so. Good. Thanks. All right.
Thank you.
Take care now. Okay, so we will move on to our next agenda item, and that would be reports. And Ed, do you have it?
Is there a written one?
Sorry?
Is there a written town administrator's report?
I didn't see it if it was in my package. Sorry? We just didn't hand it out before people came in, I think.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. All right. There are currently only 2 members of the 5-member Finance Committee. The Select Board should appoint at least 2 members of this committee as soon as possible so that we are able to accomplish the end-of-year departmental transfers and any other needed actions by the Finance Committee. This should be done under an emergency basis and should not be a precedent setting. The term should only be long enough to accomplish the required end-of-year departmental transfers to help close out our account books and not letting accounts finish the year in deficit. As you heard from Robert earlier, the installation of the new water irrigation system at the Center Cemetery has begun. The water is currently off in the cemetery to accommodate this installation, but the work should be completed and the water turned back on again before the end of June. We did receive notice from the contractor that there will be plumbing work required to accomplish this project, which was not anticipated, and that was not in the original specifications from the town or the quote received from the vendor. So I will anxiously await receiving that tomorrow and trying to figure out how we pay for it. The Highway Department has received delivery of the new dump truck. That has been about 1.5 years in the manufacturing process, so they do have that now. The town's financial Schedule A has been approved by the Department of Local Services. The contractor La Rochelle Construction for the historic Old Town Hall exterior renovation and painting has signed and returned the contracts for that project. Our next step, we will be scheduling a pre-construction meeting date with them on site. And some of the better news in the last week, the town has received a Mass Trails grant in the amount of $320,000 from the State Department of Conservation and Recreation towards the next phase of the Greenway Rail Trail design. Thank you to the Greenway Rail Trail Committee and the Ad Hoc Grants Committee for their diligent work putting this successful grant application together. And then Select Board meetings for July are scheduled for the 11th and the 18th.
Okay. Any questions for Ed on his report?
3 chairs.
Okay, I have no questions. How about other reports from Select Board liaisons? Anybody have any meetings this week where you are the liaisons to your committees and have anything to report back to us? We'll start with Dan. Do you have anything?
I have nothing to report. No, I have nothing to report.
The committee, CPC met. They voted a new chair, Sierra Simmons, and they were just having discussions about the accounting since it's a new chair. They're trying to understand what's going on there. And I think they scheduled a meeting for July, but I don't have the date on me. The Greenway Committee met the next night, June 15th. They discussed a lot of receiving the Mass Trails grant. And, going forward, how that money was going to be used on the projects, and the billables with Ty and Bond, and going over the work that had already been done by them. And they also discussed, they've been reaching out a lot to the abutters to discuss their concerns and to make them aware that they care about their concerns and want to address them as much as possible. Their next meeting is July 20th.
Okay,
And that's it.
great. Stephen, anything from any committee that you might have gone to?
I missed the Board of Health meeting, but we know they've been busy over the past week, and I'm sure that'll come up if it hasn't already. I did meet with the Board of Assessors, and they were deliberating on the chapter lands reductions for the current year, the renewed applications. Their data systems and information sharing, something that was flagged in the meeting in terms of needing some coordination between assessors and those preparing municipal lien certificates, so as to flag lands that are in chapter. So we trigger an alert across all the relevant town boards.
Okay, great, yeah. John?
Yes, 2 meetings. I attended the PPPB meeting last week. On Thursday, the committee reorganized. I was re-elected the chair. Jennifer Hibbert-Day was elected vice chair, and Robin is the clerk. All of the matters that came up during that meeting will shortly be coming up before us on appointments. Also, Norris met last week on their regular meeting, and because of a concern of the ongoing budget process for next year and closing out the books for this year, Norris is going to waive its standard process of recessing for the summer, and will continue to meet through the summer, primarily because of the change in the business administrator's post up there and wanting to stay ahead of things as much as possible so that they're ready. The other interesting point is Norris, as of right now, is at 498 students.
Wow.
500's the magic number.
Yeah, okay.
So
Good
that's
to know.
all I have.
All right, very good, okay. And on my part, just a couple meetings that are coming up. Both the Cost Efficiencies and the Bylaw Review Advisory Committee are going to be meeting on the 28th of June. And that's about that for the committees that I'm involved with, other than the Ad Hoc Grant Committee, and Ed already made the announcement, but we were very pleased to have the notification, and Ed and Mark Cassis from the Greenway Committee were able to travel down to Billerica, was it, I guess, to receive the award. So this time it was a grant from Mass Trails for $320,000, which is a little bit more than what we got last year. We got $300,000 from them last year. And so that, together with CPC money, gives us, I'd say, just about all, 90% anyway, I would say, of the design, permitting, engineering phase of what we need to work on that for the next year or two, as that's underway with tie-in bonds. So that was great news that we were considered again for a repeat grant. So that was great news. Nothing else coming up right yet. We're taking a look at what other grants applications might be due, what other grant programs are out there that we might be considering, and we'll have to have a meeting pretty soon on that to see which other ones we might need to tackle. But we've got quite a few that we've already received, so that's good news. And the biggest one that we had done was through the Public Safety Building Committee. That was the one into the one-stop program, and we won't hear about that for a few months, but that one is maybe a long shot, but hopefully that could bear some fruit as well. Other than that, we'll be waiting also on a meeting with the Public Safety Building Committee that hasn't been scheduled yet, but we should be meeting hopefully within the next week to 10 days and reviewing the cost proposal with the chosen vendor. So that's about that. Okay. All right, with that, let's move on to appointments and resignations. So we have a few here.
Motion to accept the resignation of Dan LaValle as Park Commissioner.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, Dan, thank you for your time. I know you're pulled in many directions, so we understand that you may need to give up something in order to dedicate your time to
I'm happy I
both,
was able to accomplish what I accomplished.
both select board and planning board, which will take up a lot of your time, and housing as well, right? Okay. All right, next one, we have the Water Superintendent Tom Gahn, notice of retirement.
Motion to accept the notice of pending retirement effective September 6, 2023.
Okay, could I have a second on that?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. All right,
If there's no
Objection?
objection, thank you. Objection, can we take the remaining up collectively?
how about a couple, the next two are different expiration dates, so let's take those two, and then all the others are the same expiration date.
Motion to appoint Charlie Kinnicky, Associate Member, Zoning Board of Appeals, term to expire June 30th, 2024. And motion to approve Dan Melux, alternate,
Mayu?
that's how you pronounce it, alternate electrical inspector, term to expire June 30th, 2024.
Okay, so we have a motion for both Charlie and Dan. Could we have a second on that?
Second.
Second by Joy. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right.
Motion to approve Margaret Larson, Capital Improvement Committee, term to expire June 30th, 2026. To approve Marla Heck,
Hank?
Conservation Commission, term to expire June 30th, 2026. Approve Brittany Taylor, Conservation Commission, term to expire June 30th, 2026. Kathleen Haley, Conservation Commission, term to expire June 30th, 2026. Sharon Reed, Member, Zoning Board of Appeals, term to expire June 30, 2026. Virginia Ahart, Bylaw Review Committee, term to expire June 30th, 2026. Charlie Kinnicky, Agricultural Committee, term to expire June 30th, 2026. Randall Kemp, alternate member of the Agricultural Committee, term to expire June 30th, 2026.
All right, let's stop there for the moment. Okay, we have a second on that? Joy, all right. That was quite a long list. Anybody have any questions or anything on that? These are mostly reappointments from what I know here, I think. Charlie may be a new one on the zoning alternate, but he's been on the Ag Commission as well. Virginia's continuing on the Bylaw Committee, et cetera. And that was Shanna Reed, I believe. I can't read it on my...
Yes. Yeah, I was guessing.
Yeah, okay. Shanna Reed. Okay. Anybody? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, great. That's quite a slate of approvals. And then let's take the next one and then the next two.
Motion to approve Nicole Fletcher, fence viewer, term to expire June 30th, 2024.
Okay, we have a second, please?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and then,
Then motion to appoint John Lumber Finance Committee, term to expire July 16th, 2023, as well as Daniel LaValle Finance Committee, term to expire July 16th, 2023, noting it's not precedent and it's under emergency circumstances, and that KP Law has agreed to these appointments, that we could move forward with these.
Second.
all right. Right, any discussion? All right, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. So again, this is a temporary, one-time emergency appointment
Correct.
to get us through the fiscal year and approve financial transfers that we need to do to close our books for the year.
Which was discussed at a prior meeting.
Exactly, yeah. Okay, very good. Next, we've got a bunch of new business things. Let's take a look at the Water Asset Planning Grant Enterprise Fund Certification. Ed, do you want to tell us about this a bit? Or do you have this as a motion in here?
Just point of order, didn't we vote on this at the last time around?
No, that was the
no.
authorization for the
Tom to
water
sign?
superintendent to be able to sign any grant applications or
Yeah.
any pertinent.
It was more generic, I
that.
think, yeah. You want me to read, I can read the motion if you want, and then you can...
Yeah, and basically, this is the second part of the equation. This will earmark the funds that would pay for that, and the out-of-pocket local
Right.
town match from the enterprise fund is $10,000, and then there's some labor match that goes along with it, and then the rest would be reimbursed from the state with the actual grant money.
So shall I go ahead and read the motion as you've written it?
If you would, please.
Okay. The town of Southampton, Mass. is in the process of applying for an asset management grant administered through the Clean Water State Revolving Fund Program. Total cost for the project is $80,000 and consists of $48,000 in the form of a grant for which the town is applying, $22,000 in-kind services, and a cash matching portion of $10,000. Now therefore, be it certified that by the Southampton Select Board that one, that the cash matching portion of the grant is available through the FY24 Water Enterprise fiscal budget of $1,020,610.56, as voted and approved by town meeting held on May 9, 2023, as stated in Article 9. Number 2, that the water superintendent and his staff are authorized to perform the required $22,000 of in-kind services. And 3, the balance of the total representing $48,000 in grant money for which the town is applying is also available through the Water Department's approved FY24 Water Enterprise fiscal budget. However, the town understands that as the work on the project progresses, the town will be reimbursed for the $48,000 of grant funding on a monthly or quarterly basis from the Clean Water State Revolving Fund Program upon submission of the appropriate documentation.
Second.
Okay, second by Stephen. All right, any discussion, any questions? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right. Hearing no opposition, the motion passes. All right, very good. Next, in your packet, and we may or may not decide on this tonight, but we have the Select Board reporting schedule for what you have in the packet is for FY23. And before developing the one for FY24, I wanted to see what anybody thought about the timing of this. Just for people's information, we had started doing this, I think, both meetings of the month 2 years ago, and found it to be pretty time-consuming, and just it took up a lot of time on our part, but also on the people to prepare a report to us, and so we cut it back down to this particular schedule last year, and for the most part, these are getting in just about all of the key boards and commissions and committees to report to us, as well as the departments and school. And so this is kind of how we had it last year, and we chose to do it basically pretty much the first meeting of every month. In a couple cases where we had a long month and we had 3 meetings, I think we put it off to the 3rd meeting. But if everybody's in agreement, we'll kind of keep on with the first meeting of the month. But just wondering when we would like to start this. If you know what we had for August, which we start out with HG&E, Eversource, and Charter. I think we never finally did have the Charter guy come, did we? No. We had the other 2 come. And then in August last year, we had Senator Vilas and Rep. Pease come in. So we could kind of follow that, or if there's some that you think might be moved, or we could hold off on this until the next meeting if you wanted to discuss this, think about it any further. But I don't know if John and Joyce, since you've had experience with this, is there anything that you thought was out of whack in terms of the timing of when we might need, like for the school, John, for example? Is that a good time to do that in January? Is that, too early, too late?
No, I think that's fine. I think that's fine in January.
And I don't know, would we need to have HG&E and Eversource and Charter back in August? I would personally say not offhand, unless we have any particular issues at this point in time. We could skip right down to the senator and the rep.
Yeah, I would say I'd only be looking to talk to Eversource if we really thought we were going to move forward on the street lighting project.
Right, yeah, which is still a ways away. I think we're not ready for it. We could always program them in later, but not, have them take up our space at this point in time. So we could maybe see if they would, be available. Excuse me. Do we want to not have a meeting in July with these guys? I'm going to lose my voice.
With who?
The senator.
Oh.
And the rep.
I think we offer them both dates, the last week in July or one of the weeks in August, depending on what their schedule is, and with the thought that they would both pick the same evening.
Okay, we'll do that. So we'll ask them for, excuse me, July 18th, and then whatever our August meeting is going to be. Boy, oh boy, I'm going to lose my voice here. Anybody else that looks kind of oddball? We tried to, excuse me, group these in kind of a like category, so they made some sense. Community preservation, thank you. Community preservation, conservation and open space kind of as a group. Accountant, treasurer, assessor as a group. And we can just go back and try this same grouping.
Yeah, I would suggest that maybe we take a look at the instructions that we gave and maybe put some more substance
Okay.
to it, because it seemed like, there were like 4 example questions, and that seemed to be the sole topic every single time. And then, I just can't stress enough how much it's important, if you know about it ahead of time, to get your report in by that Thursday. So we have time to read it and maybe just jump right to questions versus spending 30 minutes of just reading into the microphone,
Okay.
right?
So we can kind of keep on the same
Yeah.
same agenda. Now, the one I see down here, though, in June, that would be kind of our now meeting, would be the Easthampton Media. And I think we haven't had them around for a while. We might see if they were also available for July, just out of curiosity.
They haven't been back since we gave them $50,000. I don't know if we want them back.
And
I think they're gonna want to-
just a reminder that our contract is up anyway, so
Is it up?
it's probably
soon?
pertinent.
Oh, yeah, we're good. Thank you. Who's that? Is it up again soon, John?
Yes.
For these guys? Okay. So what are you suggesting? We don't have them in?
No, that we actually
We
do have them in.
Okay, because I know they've done a lot more recording than they'd anticipated on the non-official meetings for select board and planning, right? So
What's that?
they had done a lot more recording for us
Yes.
on our Zoom meetings than they had planned in the contract. So I'm sure that's going to be a topic of discussion. Okay, so let me, I will work at revising this list a little bit and making it pretty again, and we'll get it sent around. And we'll contact the senator and the rep to see if they are available in July and August. We'll give them 2 dates to choose from, okay?
Great.
Thank you, thank you. And if anybody, I'll forward around the questions too that we had. They were really sort of, just what are some of your challenges? What are your budget issues? Are you applying for grants and how does that affect your budget?
There was one on staffing, but a lot of the
Staffing.
committees don't have staff. It's just the committee.
Yeah, right,
and-
yeah. So we can modify that set of questions a little bit there.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay. All right. So, next, temporary processing facility information. I think the information has been known. Ed, if you'd like to say anything about that. Within 48 hours of the first press release, we had to do a second press release because, as we had said, it was evolving hourly, basically.
Yes, and, the state was looking at the location for a temporary immigrant processing facility at the old Harley-Davidson building on College Highway, but that was only one of a number of sites they were looking at in western Massachusetts. And then as of last week, I believe it was on Thursday, they contacted us to let us know that that has been their decision to put that on indefinite pause because they found that because it was a commercial building rather than a residential building, that the costs to actually, shall we say, run it as a residential facility were prohibitive, so.
Processing facility.
Huh?
Processing facility.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it wasn't housing, it was processing.
correct.
Right.
So that is been taken off the table.
Okay. All right. Any questions about that? Okay. Next up, transfer station FY24 fee policy.
And this is basically coming back, such as the second reading and for signature.
Right.
So,
Okay. All right, and that was basically the change in bag fees, is that correct?
yes, from $20 to $24.
And that takes effect on July 1st, I believe.
Correct.
Okay. Next, departmental transfers, if you'd like to kind of go over these, we can at least know what they are, even though this would have to go back before the Finance Committee, right? So we have a total, do you have it over there? You gave me a copy, do you have it also?
Yes.
Okay.
So let me go down that.
So this is our third request for budget transfers.
Correct.
Is this probably the last one, or we may have another
No,
one still?
we will definitely have one more.
Okay.
So there are a number of them on here, A through Q. The total on both sides is $46,749.18. First request is overdrawn account is EMS wages, negative $6,250 to be transferred from standby wages, $6,250. Fire expense in deficit, $6,000 to be transferred from structural turnout gear, $6,000. Election and registration expense in deficit, $1,231.55 to be transferred from assistant town clerk wages, $1,231.55. Town hall building expenses would be in deficit $3,423.42. Transfer from assistant accountant wages, $983.76, and group health insurance, $2,439.66. Website maintenance will end up being in deficit $25. Transfer from technology equipment, $25. Photocopier lease and supplies would be in deficit $1,318.08. Transfer from group health insurance, $1,318.08. Building commissioner's wages, due to, he was due an increase when he received his actual building commissioner certification, would end up being in deficit $1,266.96. Transfer from assistant accountant wages, $1,266.96. Postage, we estimate, would be in deficit $1,000. Transfer from group health insurance, $1,000. Group life account, we estimate, will be in deficit $150. Transfer from group health insurance, $150. Police overtime wages, we are estimating, would be in deficit $6,500. Transfer from police wages, $2,000. Communication expenses, $1,000, and police expenses, $3,500. Let's say police building expenses, we estimate would be in $2,000 in deficit. Transfer from equipment maintenance, $2,000. Town hall gas and electric, we estimate would be in deficit $5,226.52. Transfer from group health insurance, $5,226.52. Fire EMS building expenses, utilities, in estimated end-of-year deficit would be $900.74. Transfer from group health insurance, $900.74. Police building expenses, utilities, estimated would be in deficit $1,521.96. Transfer from group health insurance, $1,521.96. Street lighting we estimate would be in deficit $4,588.30. Transfer from group health insurance, $4,588.30. Library utilities, we estimate would be in deficit $4,281.65. Transfer from group health insurance, $4,281.65. And then library maintenance, we estimate would be in deficit $1,065. Transfer from library director salary, $1,065. Total of both sides being $46,749.18.
Any questions? I have one.
I do.
Yeah, go ahead, Stephen.
Well, as a new guy,
Keep the microphone near you.
Ed, do you see patterns or trends in this compared to prior years, or anything notable that you want to highlight?
No, I would just say that this has been a very unusual year, at least energy, cost-wise, due to a 30% and above increase in electricity and natural gas costs. Hopefully it will not spike again next year. We have built in some increases for fiscal year '24 based on what we saw last year. And then other than that, I mean, police overtime is usually always needing a transfer. This year probably more so again because of staffing levels. So existing full-time officers and not having the part-time officers to fill in, getting the overtime. The police chief has always done a wonderful job in actually containing that within his own, budget. And then I would probably be amiss, and John would probably throw that bottle in his left hand at me. If you said trend-wise, I will say that, yes, trend-wise, usually at this time of year, we are scratching around and doing some form of EMS wages, expenses, fire wages, expense transfers at the end of the year to try to balance everything out.
Got two questions myself. On the second one, the fire expense taking out from the structural turnout gear, that kind of surprises me that that wasn't fully spent. That was like a $12,000 every year budget item for turnout gear. Did they not buy it this year, or did they get it through a grant? Or
well, I believe they got some through a grant, which they have the last couple of years, but usually he also buys some also with that funding. I did not pay attention to see if that takes that account to zero or if some purchases have been made.
Okay, yeah, it just seems like an odd place to take it, because he's usually always looking for that money there. And then my other question is just, how come we are so flush in the group health insurance that we can take everything out of here?
Because we have so many openings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, kind of the same reasoning that, we were able to cover most, or at least a good portion of the snow and ice deficit through the highway wage account. And if, like I say, if we were successful in filling all the positions we have open, I would anticipate that most of those individuals would take health insurance, and that we would not have that funding
that's a
in '24 like we do in '23.
chunk of change for sure that we've been able to use here. Yep, okay.
And then there's probably going to be a few more as the energy costs come in June, but I have also asked the Board of Assessors what they might have left in the principal assessor's salary account for earmarking that for any further energy costs. I will also tell you that the costs in here to balance off the town hall building expenses take us to even for what I know of. However, I had to make a phone call today and place a service order with BG Mechanical for a section of the town hall's HVAC, which is not working.
I just,
John?
Giving patterns of previous fiscal years, I wonder if it would be wise of us to do an inquiry to see what outstanding, if any, what outstanding water bills there are for any departments, committees, commissions, to make sure that those get addressed well before the July 12th deadline for transfers.
And I actually asked on a couple of, shall we say, habitual. I'm not aware
I could
of any,
name
but
three.
I will ask. I also went up and asked today because I remembered seeing the first quarter trash pickup invoice for the town hall, and I remembered authorizing that. However, I hadn't remembered seeing anything since, and then Bradley reminded me that Randall had actually sent them through on one sheet for each quarter at the beginning of the year, and I had authorized the first quarter, but nothing since then. So I did authorize the second, third, and fourth quarter today, and that is in here. Most of all the other departments had transfers in there for that. But I will ask the question on water bills outstanding for town departments, or if there's any that have not authorized any outstanding trash pickup transfers.
So,
And I also remembered that there might have been one fire EMS diesel transfer that may not have gotten, shall we say, reworked after it was reversed, and that was taken care of today. But the fourth quarter is still hanging out there for fire EMS and a diesel fuel transfer.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve budget transfers for fiscal year 2023 as described in number 3, version 5, totaling $46,749.18.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, John, Dan, second. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And then I would just, for the record, it looks like Finance Committee will be meeting this Thursday at 6 p.m.
Oh,
Well, that would only be the case if somebody actually posted it before
It's an
6
emergency
p.m.
meeting per your request under an emergency appointment.
is it posted? Yeah?
It's an emergency.
Okay, whatever you say.
I don't know if I can post.
Okay.
Thank you all. I appreciate that.
Okay. All righty. Next.
And now Bradley and I will start working on number 4.
Yep, okay. Next, interim fire chief, EMS coordinator applications. Ed?
We had put out the posting for the interim fire chief EMS coordinator applications for appointment. We have received 2. So I think John and I would like direction from the select board of how you would like us to proceed. Do you want us to interview the 2 candidates and bring back a recommendation? Would the select board like to interview the 2 candidates for appointment and cut out the middle interview? So looking for a little direction.
I like the first choice.
That was the first one you said? To delegate John
Yes,
and,
delegation of the interview and selection. Yeah.
so to interview the 2 and come back with a recommendation. Joy, any thoughts on that?
No, I agree.
Okay. I'm basically okay with that. It might save some time. Now, would this have to be, how would we're not meeting again until the 11th, so how would this,
I would probably ask for a special meeting before
yeah,
July 1st. And then even at that, it still has to come back to the select board and the PPB for approval. So
could we do it?
that's why I threw out the thought of maybe the select board interviewing to cut out some time, but glad to do it which way the select board would like.
Well, could we have a joint meeting with PQB? Would that help?
PQP.
If they've got to sign off on it?
They do?
What, didn't you just say personnel and policies, or did you say finance? Who'd you say? Need to also sign off on this?
PPPB.
Yeah.
But they would, they're not signing off on the interview.
PCF,
No.
no, PCF.
The PCF part. But trying not to have two separate meetings about this. So Stephen, we were just talking about, we have two.
Right, well,
candidates for
so
the
this,
So we were just talking
oh,
about
because we already met.
having
you.
John and Ed interview and then come back to us with a recommendation.
And John's the chair of that committee, so I defer to John's thoughts.
I can tell you when I'm going to be on vacation. Yeah, I'm sure we can make something work.
Yeah, okay. So at this point then, so what I'm hearing is the preference to have John and Ed do the interviews and come back to us. And so then we'd have to figure out a time before July 1 to have a meeting of ourselves to hear that recommendation and make any final decisions, right? It's going to be tight, but.
Well, here's the other thing. Right now, there is a procedure in place when the chief is not available. The deputy chief automatically steps in and assumes responsibility, just like they're on vacation.
Right.
What we could do for timing purposes, we announce when we're going to hold these meetings and when we're going to take the vote, and we ask them in the interim, however many days that may be, is that they just follow the normal procedure as if the chief was on vacation.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I don't know if that's going to work, or you're still going to get your certificate saying you're the fire chief.
No, that's quite all right. I mean, we could do, it depends on whether you all could do any interviews in the next few days. I mean, that's the question of when you all are available to do that. I mean, we could set up a meeting 28th or 29th, I don't know. What works for anybody? I mean, that idea of, so the second, the deputy chief would fill in, is what you're saying, to go through that? But then we're walking right into 4th of July week and weekend. Then we're back here on the 11th anyway.
I mean, I'm fine with picking a day next week and having a 30-minute meeting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I assume everyone on the committee has gotten all the packets, right? So everyone should have a chance to read them ahead of time.
I would send them out.
And then,
Yeah.
they haven't gone out yet?
No.
Okay. I'm assuming you guys saw what I saw.
No, because neither, they closed yesterday.
Yep.
Have not had an opportunity to say, okay, you may end up being a finalist. Are you okay with us releasing that information?
Yeah.
Because they both have present employers.
Yeah. Tuesday might be a bit quick, don't you think? To have you guys interview before Tuesday and get back to us?
Week from today?
Yeah, is Thursday a possibility, the 29th, is that?
Well, let me ask this. Would everything that we're talking about or want to talk about in greater discussion qualify under the current item listed for executive session today?
This is not for executive session today, this one?
But the reason we're going into executive session says to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions, contract negotiations with non-union personnel. I mean, it does say specifically the COA, but,
Yeah,
so I guess not. Never mind.
technically, probably not. I mean, it just depends on what your availability is, guys. You know, we could either do Tuesday, the 27th, or the 28th, maybe not the 29th. That would be pushing it right up to the end on a Thursday night.
Well, the 22nd, 7th.
Well, just possibility if you all think you can interview before then.
Are you talking John and I interview, or are you
Yeah.
talking the whole committee?
No, I mean, the wish seemed to be for the two of you to interview.
Okay.
That's what I was hearing.
I will make it my priority, so I will work around John's schedule to get it done as soon as possible.
Okay. All right, well, let's tentatively set a meeting for the 27th at 6 o'clock, a short meeting, to look at the results of those interviews and make a decision then, okay?
The 29th?
And I will see if,
27th, next Tuesday.
and the big challenge I'll see if I can get you a room,
Yeah,
because I have taken one of them out of play for the auditors next week.
I can help you out there. I can make sure Norris Library is available.
Thank you.
Okay.
Take the show on the road.
Okay. All right, that sounds good. All right, so we'll plan a meeting on the 27th, and we will have Ed and John do the interviews and come back to us with recommendations. Okay?
Okay. Right, so just to clarify, the intent of the 27th is to have a recommendation for appointment, and then to have a vote of the body, and in theory, have that candidate present, so we can immediately go to negotiations and settle the agreement that evening,
Correct.
in order for them to take over in 3 days. I'm just
Yeah, no,
setting the
if
stage.
that's possible. I mean, Ed, were you thinking we'd be able to do the negotiation that evening too? With the person? Okay. Okay, we'll work that out, time-wise. So, please hold the 27th at 6 PM available, and we will make that happen. Okay, next, on the agenda, update on COA director. Ed? Or-
Actually, this would be the item that we would come back into open session
Okay.
from executive session for.
Okay, gotcha. All right, we will pick that up as we come back around. All right, so now we are on to the ARPA requests, I believe. First of all, let's pass that back to Ed before I lose it. There we go. So, you all have seen information in the package. You've seen the decision tracker. One of the things that we will need to do, we had a couple of notes in our decision tracker of monies that have to be recycled back into ARPA for a couple of different reasons. Let me pull that up in a minute. Because we are running pretty low.
Hopefully you're $300.
And we have, let's see, hold on. Let me find the right one. So hopefully you all were able to see it on your screens. It's a little bit easier to see on your laptops than otherwise. But we are down to, out of the $1,844,554 available, we've actually approved $1,654,109.87. We've got one thing committed, which is the financial software at the $128,749 level. So that means our approved and committed are at $1,782,000, leaving us about 61,000 uncommitted, 61,600 uncommitted. But we have three proposals to consider, one of which I do not have on my chart because it came in after I had updated the chart. So,
But before we get, could you just clarify
Yep.
the next line, number 40 and 44? I think
40
I
and
know what they
44 are the numbers of the proposals. And so anything that you see in yellow on my chart that's hold. So 31 is the financial software. Just look for anything that I put up in yellow.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I was reading that 30,000 meant that was the money that needed to be reappropriated.
No, that's the money that is being asked for by
Yep.
two applicants that we have not taken up, or one we had, no, we may not have taken up either one of them, I forget. And then one more that is not on the list that is in our packages tonight. So the two that were on the list, if I'm not mistaken, were canal bowling lanes, the sign for 20,000, that would be on group number 2. If you look at your pages, 2 of them are in there. Group number 2, there was a $20,000 request for the canal bowling lanes. We had taken it up at a April meeting and decided to put it on hold. We had approved their second request, which was a much smaller amount for their website. Excuse me, for $3,600, I believe. We did approve that, but we put on hold the sign because we weren't totally sure. We know that the building is for sale. We know that their intent is to keep it operating as a bowling alley, but we were a little bit leery at the time about going toward that amount of money with the sign. And I don't know if you've talked to them anytime since, Ed, or?
I sent them a request for more information on that, but do not have any more information at this particular time. Specifically on how they felt it tied to shall we say, COVID negative financial impact.
That was for the Canal Lanes one, the bowling lane one, okay, yeah.
Actually, both that
Yeah.
and the quilt shop.
And the quilt shop. Okay, we'll come down to that one in a second. I think our other concern that day, when we met in April, we were just knowing that because the property's for sale, was this something that, we saw the value of keeping the business going, but we didn't know, whether somebody buying it could actually change their mind and not keep it as a bowling alley. So we were a little bit leery, I think, about that whole signage thing, but that's where that one stands at this point. So it's still on hold unless anybody wants to actually pick it up and talk about it more.
When I think about it, I would take the sale or for sale out of the equation. I wouldn't have that as part of my decision-making matrix. That I feel that any business could change, go for sale tomorrow, right? Any of these organizations that we've given money to. So,
Well,
I mean,
I would just, I would counter that, Dan, that on all the other requests that we did that were for non-government agencies, the primary reason, in my view, of granting a request was because the business owners committed to staying and continuing, and to avoid having to close or relocate. And the one business who started off here but then relocated was denied the request.
They relocated to Easthampton, and we denied them, actually.
And I think that's where the origin of the discussion comes
Right.
from.
Yeah.
Because of how we viewed the others previously.
Yeah.
But are they beholden to anything? Like if they left town, they don't have to repay the money?
These have got to be used, well, it's got to be used for Southampton purposes, so, if they bought the sign, then.
Yeah. It was installed in Southampton, then they met the justification for it.
Interesting theory. Hadn't thought about that one.
Just offering my opinion.
Okay.
I have a, I don't necessarily want to get off this particular topic, but when we're ready, I have a question on 16A.
Okay.
If after the previous actions that we just took earlier this evening, do we have an update? Now, the way I interpret 16A is $104,645 will roll back into ARPA funds if we are reimbursed by December 2024.
Remind me of 16A.
That's the Clean Water Fund grant match. Based on what we just signed tonight and timelines and all that, do we anticipate the reimbursements starting and/or completing by December of '24?
That may be a different grant.
That's a different grant.
I think it's a different grant.
All right, we didn't sign anything, but same question. Based on what you know about that particular grant, do you anticipate reimbursements starting and/or being completed by December of '24, to the best of your knowledge right now?
They're going to need to be. If we can, we've got to have something back in so that we can reprogram it before December of '24 is the last time we can
Correct.
reprogram anything or
Right.
allocate anything.
I would have, since
You have to ask Ty and Bond or whoever's doing
the
this one.
application is still rolling and we don't have the funds yet, I would have to reach out to Ty and Bond to see what they would anticipate we may be eligible to start receiving reimbursements for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, this
because
one, yeah,
Mine-wise.
it's an 18-month window right now, give or
Right.
take.
right.
And
So that would
I
put
may
some
feel,
money
I
back.
may feel differently about repurposed money
Mm-hmm.
than spending the last of what we have right now,
Original money, yeah,
knowing that we still have one whole fiscal budget year to go through where
right, we do,
this balance could be used for.
right, yeah.
So can you just clarify that for me a little bit? So say, take the website that we approved for the bowling alley, right? They asked for $3,600.
They got that, yep.
But let's say the website costs $2,000. When do we get the difference back?
They have to turn in receipts, right, Ed?
Correct.
So I'd imagine for a lot of these things, we're going to end up with a,
Well, they had to, we've asked them for pro formas and so forth, so we were trying to get as close to possible the real figure that they really needed. So we're not anticipating funds back on just about anything. We had this grant match that was an unusual case, and then we had two things down where we had to, let me find it.
I think it's the one right above it, the MVP grant match, the $35,000.
Possibly, yeah. But there were two that we had to, remember, we had to do some temporary funding
Right.
for,
Rows 82 and 83.
right. So those are ones that, now that we've passed that at town meeting, that money should roll back into us. So that's something that we'll have to have Bradley focus on and help us do that so that we have it for our next financial review on that. Because those were ones,
And what's the details of the third request that came in that we don't have in our package?
okay, so we've got one in our package, but let's go right to this next one that's right on that same page, which is a new request that came in since we last met from the quilt shop, and you have that in your package. Excuse me. And that basically is a request for $10,000, respond to COVID emergency and negative economic impacts, and just basically says for inventory, payroll, rent, and utilities. Not a lot of information, frankly, unlike some of the others that we had asked for, some of the other businesses in town. We'd asked for a bit more clarity, I think, about how exactly this had really impacted the business. Some businesses had taken the liberty of actually showing their tax returns to us. We're not asking for that, but I would think there might need to be a little bit more narrative to accompany this. So I don't know, again, have you had a chance to talk to this person at all, Ed, or?
I have reached out, and I'm waiting for a response with further detail.
Yeah, okay.
I just don't get how all these numbers can be so round, right? If they're backing up with some type of data.
Yeah, no, this,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, no, I would agree. I personally, I think this one needs more information to be able to act on it myself. I don't think we know enough about, what happened with, payroll or rent costs or utilities costs as it relates to COVID. Again, that's the common denominator, and the COVID emergency is technically over. So we need to even understand what period of time this is being talked about, right? So I would recommend that we also put this one on hold until we can get further clarification on that.
Agreed.
Okay. So then the new one we have, which is not on my list, because it just came in after I'd updated my list last meeting, and that one, I'm going to turn it over to Ed, because it came from him. And then we'll come back to the financial software. That's the last one we have to discuss. So Ed, let's pick up the new one that you put forth. This is number 45, I believe, on the tracker that Judy would have given you.
Yes, and probably for the last 4 years I've been here, I have brought up the subject of taking a look at establishing a stormwater enterprise fund, which would be a fee to residents that this actually pertains to on urban roads. And when we first started, when the state took over the responsibility of the MS4 permitting from federal DEP, originally thought we were spending about $30,000 a year just on what it costs us to keep up and have our permit in good standing. And I had the theory that, okay, as we went along, that would probably drop and maybe basically disappear. It is not. It has been pretty steady. I now anticipate it to be steady into the future, but the other piece of the funding is, yes, we've been handed these rules and regulations and have to comply. So we really don't have a choice whether, when it comes time to replace a street sweeper or a catch basin vacuum machine, plus we have, existing labor on our books just coming from wages that is responsible for doing these duties. And as you have seen over the last 3 to 4 years, it doesn't get any better for us. We don't really get a whole heck of a lot more money from the state. We are limited as to our tax dollars. And in fact, the state keeps giving us more and more unfunded mandates that kind of makes it even harder for us to, shall we say, meet our required budget requests. So I have reached out to a vendor who has done this before in other communities and asked them, okay, approximately what would this cost to do the study, and come up with a couple of options to, shall we say, disperse those fees to our residents. So there is a ARPA request in front of the select board, and if it doesn't get funded this way, we're going to have to find some other way to fund it, because we don't have the capital dollars to replace the street sweeper or the catch basin vacuum machine as is needed, or really fund the MS4 costs into the future. So I look at this as one way of the possibility of taking that out. And yes, it becomes a fee to our residents who are impacted by it, directly impacted by it, but to pay for that service that is required for that specific purpose that has been mandated to us by the state.
So just to be clear, so that you're asking for $55,000
For a study.
for the study? And
On behalf of the town.
no, I understand that,
Yeah.
but that's the price you think the study would be. And at the conclusion of that study, we would have a product ready to move forward in the shape of a bylaw or ordinance or something? Would that be
Correct.
the end game?
And along the way, we would not be able to use the collective we wouldn't just be, we would see a couple of different ways to, whether it's by, frontage or parcel or whatever, to establish that fee set.
Yeah. I know in a lot of communities, what they do is the residential properties are assessed $1 per quarter. And the commercial properties are assessed a fee based on the impervious area that they take up, including the parking lot and the rooftops and that, to make the thing work. And I would think in Southampton, we'd probably want to even do something less than $1 on the farms, maybe 10 cents per 10 acres or something, I don't know. But I think there's ways to do this if we figure in the useful life of the street sweeper at $270,000. Even at 10 years apiece, we should be putting away $27,000 for that, just simple math along with everything else. But I think this makes sense because we're relying on our general fund or our tax dollars or property taxes that were never intended to support this program.
Correct.
And by doing that, we are sacrificing services that the taxpayers are already paying for by giving a free pass. And I know we'll hear, well, you can't tax the commercial property because they'll get up and leave. But it's a cost of doing business. And in other communities within Western Mass, they're already paying this fee.
Yes. Yes, more and more communities are adopting it because it's another one of those pieces that's mandated to us, and a good amount of communities just don't have the extra tax dollars or growth to be able to cover that.
Is there, I'm sorry.
This would just frame the question to bring it before town meeting, to approve the fund and the method for implementing the fee.
That ultimately would need town vote approval, correct? So my other question is there a way that we can structure this to straddle 2 fiscal years? Because I believe the reimbursement money is going to be coming in '24. And I say calendar '24, which is really fiscal, '25. Could we do it so it actually happens in calendar year '24? So 6 months in this fiscal year, 6 months in the next, we could spread that out. We could wait for the reimbursements to come through. Because if we commit the $55,000 right now, we're down to $5,000 without anything else. And we still got to get through this budget cycle. I don't know if in your discussion, this is a 30-day project for them for
I was gonna say,
$55,000?
how long a time frame might it take?
Yeah, I mean, to me, the disadvantage of doing it over 2 fiscal years, you're basically saying, okay, we're not going to be able to replace that street sweeper until fiscal year 2025 or 6.
So the flip side then, I'll think outside the box, could we approve it knowing that we have those funds coming in and almost overcommit the funds? Knowing that in '24, we'd have to hit free cash if we didn't get our receipts in on time and get reimbursed.
As long as we're smart enough about, shall we say, managing them and make sure we're getting some of the, shall we say, returns, and not spending, everything. So I would think we would be able to get both the reimbursement and do this project in fiscal year '24. So hopefully we have something for fiscal year, 25's
To put it in
annual
place.
town meeting or budget.
Yeah, so I think, back on your comment earlier about the fund grant match for the other one, the 104,000, there's 84,000 of that, if I'm not mistaken, should be reimbursed from the state. So we had to show that we had the full appropriation, including in-kind, our cash match, as well as the grant money. But 84,000 of that should roll back to us, and we just need to find out from Ty and Bond, because that grant was already approved. That one was, it's different from the grant that we talked about tonight. So hopefully that would be able to get done, within the next few months, and over the next 6 months, that maybe they could be billing at least a portion of it that would start flowing back into us.
I would say I'm in full support of this, because if we don't do it now with this funding source, I don't know where we're going to
Yeah.
find the $55,000 in the general fund to do it.
Right, yeah. Did you answer my question about how long it might take to do the study? I'm sorry, did they say, is it a 3-month study or a?
I would have to go back, and
Okay.
they may have, and I don't remember.
Okay. All right, so we know that we've got this up for grabs here, about $55,000, and you're pretty comfortable with that amount as the top amount?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve ARPA application number 45, not to exceed $55,000 for the purposes of conducting a MS4 permit cost and reoccurring, or enterprise fund.
I'll second.
Okay, second by Joy, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion's approved.
you.
Thank you, okay. Good one. All right,
That approved, how much is left? Funding.
well, we've still got those other two on hold, so we still have, sorry, I didn't add the money in there, we just took out 5, so there was 5,000, we've got about 35,000, not counting the squilt shop and the bowling alley, roughly.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Smith?
I would like to make a motion to amend request number 34, previously approved on November 22nd, 2022, for the Historical Society in the amount of $12,425, by adding an additional $356, totaling $12,781.
Okay. All right,
Second?
okay, any further discussion on that? Okay, and the amount again, sorry, let me catch that.
Increased by 356 for a total of 12,781. And it should be noted, this is it. If any other receipts come in,
Yeah. Okay, all right, we have a motion, I think I heard a second. Dan, yeah, okay, all those in favor?
aye.
Okay, approved.
Who seconded?
Dan,
Dan,
okay. That's an amendment to Clark Chapman, so we will just, you don't need to do a formal amendment application or anything like that, we'll just add it on to here.
Will it automatically, a check be sent to that company?
you'll probably get an
You will have to
updated.
resubmit.
You have to resubmit that part, I'm talking about the ARPA application itself. But it'll be under, so it'll be whatever your project number was, and then -A, because it's an amendment to it. Okay, all right, let's go to the financial software. And Ed, well, we've had this out for quite a while, and something that has been a select board priority for easily a year or two, I think, and we all know that we need to do something about this, and you've had investigations going on and have 3 companies, I think, that you've been talking to, and you and Jen and Bradley. And so if you want to give us some current thoughts in terms of where things stand.
The select board has both the treasurer collectors and the town accountant's recommendation in front of them. I have reached out to 6 references, of which I've only gotten 2 back, so I'm still waiting for a good deal of mine. However, I'll give you my 2 cents worth, and I recognize that I am a short-term lame duck, so I'll throw that out there too. And my memory is that the treasurer collector and the town accountant's recommendations are the same, that VADAR number 1, QDS number, well, actually, I don't even know if the treasurer picked number 2 and 3. QDS number 2 and Springbrook number 3. And I'm not a fan of the VADAR option only because of the fact that they do not have an HR payroll module. So we have to contract with a third-party system for that.
Just to do payroll.
Right. The other 2 have the module. It would be our choice if we outsource that, but we'd also have the choice to come back and do it ourselves without a third-party vendor at any particular time. One entity officially made this comment to me, and I had actually heard it unofficially from another reference from VADAR, that the treasurer collector loved the system, however, the town accountant did not. That gets into different modules and different uses, and the ease of use. And probably one of the other pieces, advantage-wise, Springbrook, which is probably my right now, and like I say, I'm only about halfway through my analysis from getting the references back. Springbrook would be number 1, QDS would be number 2, and VADAR would be my 3rd choice. Springbrook, the advantage is we're upgrading from an existing one of their existing projects, so I know while they might not get started quickly and might have a delay, I know that the, shall we say, ease of converting that data partway through a fiscal year and then closing out on the new product would be a quality-wise effort. I will say a con to Springbrook is it is the most expensive product of the 3. And actually, you know, an advantage, one of the advantages of QDS was that they were, shall we say, referenced or would be the quickest software product as far as being able to come in and start the implementation process. So
that was QDS?
QDS, right. But like I say, I've only got one official reference of 2 back for VADAR, 1 of 2 for QDS, and I'm still waiting for the two that I have reached out to, for Springbrook. And, my contacts are different contacts than either the town accountant or the treasurer collector would have used, because I'm reaching out directly to town administrators and town managers, for their input on not only what their treasurer collectors or town accountants have said about the product, but, for their input on if they ask for a special report or the reports they're looking for of, are they getting everything that they really want? And if they want something special, how easily is that customizable? And if some of these companies have changed financial software in, the past 3 or 4 years or so, their, input on what they had used before and what that conversion, how that conversion went, fairly easy, fairly difficult, and also for what they're seeing either on the conversion end of things or once implemented on the support end of things, is how responsible and responsive have these financial software companies been. But you've got 2 town employees that are going to be here and using the system longer than I will, that have given you basically the same reference. So, like I say, I know I'm a lame duck.
So I have a question with what you said about...
I don't...
I'm sorry.
We'll let the chair call on. One down there had his hand up first.
That's all right, that's all right.
Yeah, no, go ahead, John, yeah.
I was just, Ed, I know it's a little tight, but can we spend a minute on the pricing for Vadar?
What's that?
The Vadar pricing?
Yeah,
So
it's a little hard to see.
I think I'm reading this right. So there's the initial startup fee, which is either $28,600 or somewhere in that ballpark, $26,600 or $28,600. Then you got the year one. So remind me, what's the difference between payment option 1 and payment option 2?
Hang on, now I'm going to have to go back and refresh my memory.
Okay. It looks like
I thought
state contract fees
one
are...
was pay straight out for everything, and option 2 was like over a number of years. But
Because it looks like there's the annual cost, right, in software services. Am I right? The first year looks like 61,000, and then it goes down to 15,000?
All right, I think it's the one-time fee to either pay it all up first
Yeah, to pay it up
or
at once,
paid over the 6 years.
61,000 versus dragging it out
Yep.
year by year for 15,002 or something
Yep.
like that.
And that proposal, so just say year 1 paying it all at once gives us an annual commitment of $72,409, which includes the $11,800 for the payroll package, right?
that's my memory, yes.
Okay. So if this is the recommendation and we're going to go down this route, we have a full-time dedicated payroll clerk. I know we can't eliminate the position, but if we're going to use an outside party to do all these filings, the 941s, the W-2s, the W-3s, it seems like there might be repurposing or retooling of that employee. I'm not necessarily advocating a reduction in the hours, number one. And number two, how much are we proposing of that 142 placeholder would we use on this? Would we use year 1 and year 2?
Well, the placeholder in ARP is 128, I believe.
Well, yeah, but I mean, how far out? I don't think we can go past December of '24.
Right, yeah. So, but this one is the one that does not have the financial payroll, rather, the payroll module in it, right?
No, it is. It's the third item down, Harper's.
And just to let you know that either with Springbrook or Vadar, we will incur another probably $6,000 to convert our, shall we say, tax billing current software over.
Okay. So right now, with the Springbrook or SoftWrite or whatever it's called, now Springbrook, we're able to do our water bills, we're able to do our tax billing. Anything else right now?
Well,
current modules or?
Well, the actual tax billing portion of that from Springbrook in SoftWrite is actually done through Point.
Through Point.
Correct.
Okay.
We would be, if we did move to Springbrook, we would be converting to their tax billing module. However, we would incur a cost to convert our existing data from our existing software vendor.
Right.
And that occurs with two of the three, because if we went with QDS, since QDS is kind of picking up the tax billing software portion from Point, I think we could probably get them to convert that for a non-cost.
Right. But under the VADAR, we're paying for that same thing. The second line is data migration master tax revenue applications, $4,990. It's part of
That's just
the one-time fee.
That's just in the VADAR piece.
Yeah,
We would pay another $6,000 to Point to convert.
to convert as well. Because, now, correct me if I'm wrong, Point is, we had talked about having a more unified system, right? So whatever's happening toward building and whatever's happening toward assessors, that there's modules, whatever company we go to, that we can at least add on, should we choose, to make sure that we've got automated services at the building department and the assessors department, right?
Right, and that we would.
Which one does that?
And that we would be picking up the module to do the
HR maybe?
the water billing,
Yeah, okay.
the water gun reading.
Yep.
Yeah.
And maybe an HR module if we wanted one, which is different from payroll?
Which is available from two of the three. That's the module that we would have to partner with Harper's if we did utilize VADAR.
Mm-hmm.
Which is part of that $72,000 cost.
Correct.
Yeah. And the full, again, going down, you got utility billing, the water billing's already in there, $3,900. So the queue it's the extrapolation of what's sitting there. So wherever we go, that extrapolation is going to exist.
That's correct.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, we would have to convert from our existing financial software to the new.
So in theory, we should, whatever, hypothetically, we approve VADAR at $72,000, we should reserve $6,000 for the extrapolation as well, so that it's
For
funded
the
from the
conversion of the tax billing Point software.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what is the cost on Springbrook? Because I'm not seeing,
My memory is that, and I don't see that piece in here either. My memory is, I believe that was like $128,000.
well, I'm seeing one page of $73,000, which was, sorry, the annual product pricing for finance, suite subscription, payroll, and tax collection. That was $21,000. And then the migration services for those three look like another $51,000, if I'm reading this right. And then there's another page that has utility, HR management, and whatever the employee self-serve, what's this employee self-services one?
That's HR.
No, there's one below that that says HR too.
Right, self-service is where I can go in as employee, I can pull out my direct deposit.
Oh, I see.
I could
Okay.
change my tax withholdings.
Okay. So we could either choose to do, well, utility, so the utility one would not be in that earlier price, right? So out of this bunch, even if we only took the utility one, that's another 6 and 30, about another 40,000 right there. So it's probably 110,000 or something if we didn't do the HR modules, but we picked up the utility one, finance, payroll, and tax collection. I don't know. I mean, I want to be sure that we got something that's going to be workable for more than just one department. I understand the treasurer and the accountant having their issues, but I really want to see us try to make something that people can really use and not have to carry paper around all day long and go get 50 million signatures on something. So whether that's point, that would then be the module to convert over. I mean, the recommendations, pros and cons, I mean, Bradley wrote down the pros and cons on each of these from his references here. So con on Vadar's learning the software takes some time. Con on QDS, learning difficulties for municipalities with a lot of turnover. Okay. And then in Springbrook, using the quarry, whatever that is, to generate reports can be challenging. But, I mean, the thing that looked interesting to me was on the Springbrook was that they had a lot of pre-made reports already, and, you know, I guess I got the impression they had more modules than Vadar did.
They would, yes.
Yeah, I think Springbrook is a SQL database, or Crystal reports might be another term you might be familiar with. So I can see Bradley's point about you have to be specific in the parameters, just like now. You know, like when he runs those reports, if you miss one character, you're going to get something different.
You're stuck, yeah.
And I know that one, because I was talking to him today, I know that one of his references had said that Springbrook is a cloud product, and that the cloud was down for about a day and a half, which caused a bunch of angst. But, you know, after a day and a half, it was up, but it was down a day and a half. So I just looked at Bradley and said, okay, so if the financial software were on our server and the server broke down, how long might that take to get repaired and come back up? So, you know, there's pros and cons of, you know, both. I mean, granted, I look at the cloud as an advantage, much like we've moved to Microsoft 365. And if it's in the cloud and it's operating, is okay, you can be at home and you can sign in and you know, get your reports and what have you, versus, okay, if it's on the server, you're probably going to need a VPN or something else. So, sorry to
Jan?
go on, Dan.
Question, so is Springbrook the only?
Just speak a little louder.
Yeah.
We can hear you here. So you're talking down, so we can't hear you.
Oh.
Acoustics in here are terrible.
Yeah, the Springbrook, is that the only one that is on the cloud? Or the other one's on the cloud too?
I believe Springbrook is the only one that this option we're looking at is in the cloud, but I can verify that.
That's important. To me, that's important.
I will make a note to check on that.
The question I was going to ask...
Is it a positive thing or a negative thing to you?
It's a very positive thing to me. And the other question I was going to ask had to do with the current software, Springbrook. It sounds like we have somewhere in our packets reviews from our current employees of its use. So that's good in terms of not having to train, retrain. There may be subtle differences in the versions, but they're not starting from scratch. So.
Yeah. And what is the timing, Ed, on possible conversion? I mean,
I haven't found yours.
Either one that we chose. It sounded like from Jen's comments here that conversion couldn't start, partial conversion, until January 24.
Well,
would that be the same with the other guys?
QDS could probably start sooner, but even if they can start sooner, we'd have to have the conversation about, okay, where does it make the most sense to, you know, start converting data to get it over? You know,
Right.
Does, you know, August 31st make sense, or is it, you know, so you at least have you might have half a fiscal year, but you have a whole calendar year on January 1st. You know, we would probably have to have that discussion.
Madam Chair, just on Dan's question, under the Vadar system, it says Vadar Cloud access, 20 users.
Excellent.
$6,900.
Good.
I only have to check on one then. Thanks, John.
So, but I guess to the chair's question, I mean, maybe we're asking the wrong people. Because, I mean, we got the finance team was tasked with this to come in, but it sounds like your concerns are on the building commissioner, the assessor's office, maybe the Board of Health. So should we make inquiries? Because I don't know, maybe it already happened.
I mean, the only, I'll say the only technical aspect of this would be, are we going to add a module for the assessors, which would have more capabilities than any other departments. This probably will impact all the departments, but it will impact all the departments for the fact that now we make out every 2 weeks either a payroll warrant summary or a vendor warrant summary.
Yeah.
With any of these, those are now going to be, for most of the departments, I'm going to say departments, not necessarily committees.
Right.
For most of the departments, they're now going to go in and have a dashboard and actually.
Right. And the red flags will come up as soon as they try to overspend.
Right.
But I guess I thought where the chair was going with this was citizen A comes in to pull a permit and requires sign off on all these people.
Has nothing to do with this.
But there's currently a system in place, correct, that automates that process? Right? If
It's a permit or licensing system.
Correct.
Correct.
That is currently utilized. Under any of these proposals, can that be integrated and/or do these systems have a different version of that? I think the answer is no, but
I thought there was some.
You've got to ask me these things that have two.
Well, because I think that's the question the chair has.
No to the specific sign-offs or permits. Yes to the fact that, for example, building takes these things online, people pay their excise tax or property tax online, all of these will accept those direct inputs.
Yeah.
But not the permitting licensing side of things.
Okay. And what would be the difference? Right now, assessors is not automated at all, correct? They have no...
Not really. Some of the issues have been okay. They make address changes and, they're not automatically converted, in the system. They would have to be converted manually later on. These would address those.
Yeah. I mean, it just seems to me, the assessors, if there are modules that could help them, I'd be all in favor of including them. And that's where the money starts in town. In terms of, figuring out what our property values are so that the rest of the team can do its thing too. Dan?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think what you're maybe requesting is a matrix of per but a department in town, would the software choice, A, B, or C, have the capability to support it?
Yeah.
I think that's the matrix we're really looking to.
Yeah, I think, I'm not articulating it well, but I think obviously the core is treasurer accountant office, but to the extent any of our other peripheral offices can benefit from this huge investment in a new financial software system.
That's one of the thought processes. One is better reporting, so we say more customizable reporting.
Right.
And then the other thought process is, through changing our financial software system, can we be more efficient and not as redundant? And any of the three will address those issues.
Okay. Do we want, so you've got a couple more references that haven't come in. Do we, want to hang on to this until the first meeting in July, for example, and hopefully you'll have that information by then and we chew down on it then?
And you know what? Let's just set it up for the first meeting in July, and I will ask both Jen and Bradley to be here to give their direct input also.
Okay, that would be good. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, yes, sir. John?
No, go ahead.
Stephen, yes, sir.
And would you flag the cost of adding assessors module for each?
Actually, in all three of these, we had them include that in their proposals.
So it's built into the proposal we have in.
It's in this 72?
Yes.
And what's it called under the Springbok when I'm not seeing anything that looks like
I would have to go back.
civic pay? No?
No, that's basically what is equivalent to our current Unipay.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, maybe it would be, I don't know. I find these a little bit difficult to read, quite honestly, so.
It's okay.
Trying to understand
You're
what.
not the only one, Chris. I did too in the beginning.
No, I understand, but I just want to be sure that we're comparing apples and apples, before I make a decision.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm a little unclear as to, this supports these modules, it's included, here's the price, here's the ongoing yearly, maintenance support cost.
Support
for it.
costs going forward, yeah.
And so maybe if we had a little chart that kind of summarized that, that could be helpful for us to look at rather than.
And, yeah, and I know it's stirring the hornet's nest, but I mean, you also, just to cover bases and transparency and communication, I mean, I think it's great that Bradley and Jennifer will be here for it, but just, throw a system-wide email out there if anybody wants to weigh in differently one way or the other. This is what the recommendation looks like right now. If you'd like to be heard about it, that meeting we're going to have, that's the time to speak up, if you have a strong position one way or the other.
Yeah, well,
It gives everybody time to weigh in,
yeah,
if they so choose.
yeah, and I don't know what other departments would have enough familiarity to weigh in, other than the assessors, maybe.
That would be my assessment.
Yeah,
but
probably
that's
the
me.
assessors and/or building, maybe, but maybe not building, but assessors, I would think would. So, maybe we can, I know they're kind of hard to get a hold of and have anybody in there, but if anybody from Dave or somebody, if he could possibly be available to join us that evening, that would be good too. Okay, let's put that on hold. I'm sorry, again. Yes, Dan, go
One
ahead.
last thought, sorry.
Yes, go ahead, please.
I really like that summary table idea. And the one part that would be really nice to see at the end of it, obviously the cost, total cost,
Yeah.
is neighboring towns that are using that software tool. So we can see how big the support base is in our region.
Yeah. Well, I assume you've got some of that information because you've gone out to those towns for references or people in those towns for references. So we've got a lot of that information already.
It would be
right?
cool to have it all together.
And then I think the other thing is that whole, both the potential start date, given where we are in the current fiscal year, and then if if anything could start, in a mid-fiscal year, is that a good thing or a bad thing? What kind of problems does that cause to run two systems parallel, which could be.
Yeah, and I would just point out that our current system, we've already paid for until, it's in the budget for next year, for the whole year.
Right.
And we should plan on the two running parallel for a period of time.
For a period of time, yeah.
They may have to do duplicate entry for the first 6 months to, to start off, but
Yeah.
I'm sure someone has this all worked out.
Okay, well, I think let's put this on hold, and we'll come back to it on an early meeting. We've usually been doing ARPA at the end of our month meetings, but we'll come back to this one on the July 11th meeting. And I'd like to be able to chomp down and have a sort of, here's where we are by the end of the fiscal year kind of thing, or close to the end of the fiscal year, or the beginning of the next one, so we know where we are. And then we also have those couple of funds where we had done the overage for the photocopier and the EMS, that having been approved at town meeting, that was around $15,000, so that should actually flow back in.
Should already been taken care of.
Okay.
And flown back.
So I'll make a note.
Flowed back in, or the entries reversed.
Yeah, okay. So then maybe for, so we'll see that on Bradley's next report probably, or something then.
Yep.
Okay. All right, anything else on ARPA? It's been a challenge, but I think I tried to send you guys a bunch of information so you can see how we've been trying to document stuff, just knowing that somewhere this will be subject to a federal audit.
Oh, yeah.
Long after we're all off the board, probably. So we've been trying to document everything from applications to, they do turn in quarterly reports, so by the second meeting in July, we should have quarterly reports from everybody who's gotten their award that is not finished, or those that are finished, they would give us their final report. And so we're just trying to keep a lot of tracking going on so that we kind of know what's happening, and that's, I think, been somewhat helpful. Okay, that's where we are with ARPA, so we will leave that for tonight, and come back around. So just a few minutes, if you would indulge me. I'm going to try and see if I can do our little website. So guys, we have launched as of about 1 o'clock this afternoon, the Newtown website. And I'm over on the TV screen over here. I don't know if our camera is going to pick it up, but on the TV screen, this is the new homepage that looks a whole lot less cluttered than the earlier pages that we've had. I'm going to see if I can get down and try and do a few things here. But basically, this has been a lot of heavy lifting, not only by the company Final Site that we engaged to actually do the conversion and port over everything that we had on the old website, but then through the work of two folks from our tech committee, Megan Gentile and Dan Breen. They've done a whole lot of work on pulling things together. So you've got the typical kinds of things across the top. We've got a big search button here now, so you can just type in, I won't do it from here, but you can type in anything and it should lead you right directly to that page. There's a whole lot more efficient, fewer clicks than anything else. Let me just see if I can try a couple things here. Well, let's see, concerts and events. Let's just see what happens. I have no idea if it'll work from this distance, but it should. There we go. Oops, okay. So concerts and events, so these are all the concerts in the park. They're all listed out here, and all of our calendars will have, like on committee meetings and so forth, we'll have that little circle on the left with the dates in it. So that's all kind of new and unique, a little bit helpful, I think. Let me just keep on a couple of things here if I can try to do this. My mouse is a little bit finicky. Historic sites. And so part of this idea to explore Southampton and kind of get connected was to, make this a broader, more usable website for anybody. New residents, people looking at Southampton, people that have moved here. So this is just a few photos of some of the historic sites in town, without any narrative here, but just a little bit of that kind of stuff. So it's been a work in progress. We've had training by Dan and Megan, I forget, over probably about a 2-month period. There were around 7 different groups that got trained. And so the idea is that everybody will be responsible for their own committee page. So they've designated somebody that came to training, both the departments and the committee, commissions, boards. They have a person designated to be their updater, and they will have the power, they have the password to go ahead and do that updating behind the scenes. The library here, we have a link to their own library site, which I think you can see it pops up pretty quickly. You don't have to go through as many clicks as you used to. One of the things that's not live yet, but we will once we give this a little bit more practice over the next week or two, there is a section under Explore for businesses where they would fill out a form. Any of our local businesses that have either a website or a Facebook page, we would just link to them. We won't post their actual information, but we can link to them so that they're, just to get the broader community involved. Get Connected, agenda and minutes. You're all familiar with mytown.gov. We decided that was such a wonderful animal, we didn't change it. Hello, come open, there we go. So mytown.gov stays the same. No changes there whatsoever. And that's where people are posting their agendas and their minutes. That will all remain the same. Calendar, this is something that we haven't had functioning in our past, well, I guess we did for a while on the old website, and then it kind of died on the vine. Let's see, so the calendar will pop up, and it's starting as of today. So it populates all the meetings that are posted on mytown.gov. So you can look at the calendar and see how busy we all are, which hopefully is good. So it's pretty busy, yeah. So that's a nice feature, I think. A couple more things right in here. Let me just do this. Get Connected, oops, in there. If I can see it quickly. So this is where the job site would be. Whoops, I lost it. Jobs and volunteer sites would be here. So this would be postings for vacancies for job positions. So we have our interim fire chief, conservation agent, interim COA director, et cetera, et cetera. So those are there, and some of them have a link to the fuller job description itself. And then just over to government, this would be just where you'd have, back in Get Connected, watch meetings. So this is where your YouTube would be. government, this your agenda and minutes. So again, that posting there, but basically you'd come down into boards, commissions, and committees, and then there's a separate one for departments, and this would get you the whole list of everybody that is a board or committee or commission in town, and you can click on anyone and see what happens. So we've got a little bit of information. Everyone is a little bit structured the same, where there's going to be a recent updates and a calendar over here, so when they have a meeting, that should pop up automatically on the calendar on their page as well. There'll be a bit of a description of their general responsibilities and duties of the committee, reports, photographs, whatever they want to put up. So here, the Ag Committee had a nice brochure. It's a couple of years out of date maybe, but it's a nice brochure talking about some of the farms in town and where to go find those people. And so that was the brochure kind of opened up. And then a few other photos of just farming in Southampton at this point in time, and they can tinker with this and edit it and do whatever they'd like. When their meetings are, how to contact them, members of the committee, and then a few cute pictures at the moment. But so every committee, board, commission has got their own spiel, as well as departments, and you don't have to go through 5 clicks to find everything. It's not buried like it has been in the past.
And for those that want to look at home, it's the same email, it's the same web address, correct?
It's correctly the same, yep, townofsouthampton.org, I believe.
Yep.
Same, or maybe,
Yeah.
.org, yeah. Town services is other things, animal control, library, transfer station, tree warden, veteran services here, et cetera. So it's really, I think it's going to be pretty usable. The color scheme, we chose to match our town seal. So that's why you have this kind of rust color. It's got the rust color in the actual town seal pasted right up here in front of us, as well as on the floor in front of Ed's office. And then on the home page as well, it gets a little welcome to our town, and they can also click in here. So the online bill thing is alive. The Code Red works. View any upcoming meetings, and then featured news and events. So the top 3 bits of news will always come up, but there is view all news, so any of the previous news is all going to still be there. That would have been, earlier things that would have been out, property inspections, some stuff from the Board of Health, et cetera. It's all there, but the featured part would give you the top 3 news items of anything that's happening with of information for the town, basically. So that's kind of it. So I think I just want to encourage people to take a look and get in and see what you can find, and use the search feature, because I think you'll find it. Explore Town of Southampton, so entering Southampton and a little blurb about who we are. And then there's one thing here, we did ask permission, and one of our residents, Craig Esod, had done a great aerial view of town a few years ago. And so we asked his permission to use his YouTube video to put up here, and it's a very nice video of sort of an overview of the town. So I encourage everybody to take a look at that as well. And so that's kind of where we are. It's a work in progress. It is live. The old site doesn't exist right now for you all, so this is the one you'll see when you go to look for something. And it is going to be up to the various departments, committees, boards, to then, they've got the authority to update their own page without having to go through anybody else. And Megan and Dan are around for support when they've got issues. But you can see right up here, pay your taxes online is right up here. And then the how do I, so this is just a couple of things on, where do I go for, who to contact for, whoops, hello. Oh, I don't want to download that. No, I'm not going to do that, sorry. Not tonight, I won't. Anyway, I'll let you guys worry about that, unless that didn't work on me. Don't lie on me now. There we go. But it's a how do I? So who to contact for what? If I wanted a birth certificate, where do I go?
Pay taxes.
All those kinds of things. So there's, I think it's pretty user-friendly, and hopefully people will start to use it. So there's, some things that have got to still be updated. Not every board or department has had a chance to do all the updates they want to do, so I'm sure they'll be working on it now that they know that it's really up and running. So that's been a work in progress, but I think we can call it accomplished. Yes?
It looks wonderful,
Yeah.
Such an improvement, and it's a content-rich site. You've had to wrangle an awful lot of stuff. So
Yep.
My only suggestion is, it doesn't say Massachusetts on the
There you go.
splash page.
Very good point.
And there's an issue with
Certainly
other
is.
towns.
Yep, good point. I'm sure we can add that.
Don't you think you do?
Yeah, that's very
And
good.
it does not look like Long Island, but just wait until you do
Yeah.
change the photo and
Correct. Yep, that's fine. Absolutely. Yep. So we're going to meet again this Thursday just to see what any first reactions have been and see what little tweaks we have to do. I mean, it'll be a work in progress, like I say, but I think it's a huge step forward. So thanks, Ed, for also making it happen and giving us some guidance as to what should go where and how it can be more usable. But I think it will be very helpful for everybody.
Well, I think we all had, the four of us had input in what it might look like and what have you, but thank God we had Dan and
Okay.
Megan technically.
Oh, my gosh. I've never seen such quick fingers in my life. I mean, they were great, and they were great on the training as well, so that's just superb. So, all right, next, we've got a couple items, I think, any other business that can't wait until the next regular meeting of July 11. And I know, Ed, you've got something for us to sign at one point?
Yes, I have the Frida van contract that needs the chair of the select board to sign. So if the board would be, and we're back up to $30,000 this year in the grant for the van. So if the board would be gracious enough to authorize the chair to sign this, we will, Bradley will be the grant administrator on this one, and we'll get it back to him with the required signatures.
Is it a 1 year?
Yes.
1 year?
Motion to approve the Franklin Regional Transportation Authority 1-year grant totaling $30,000 and authorize the chair of the select board to sign on our behalf.
It's the van to be, yeah, it's the fee for the van, right? Is it, it's not an actual grant, right? It's paid for with grant money, or?
It's reimbursed.
What?
Yeah, it's reimbursed.
The drivers,
Reimbursable grant.
yeah.
It's a grant.
It's a grant, okay, all right. All right, I heard John and then Stephen second. All those in favor? Aye. All right, motion approved, thank you. All right, two other things. You may have seen some information about it. This is, I would not be doing my duty as the person in charge of the Monarch Pledge without mentioning that this is Pollinator Week around the country, basically. And in Southampton, we're going to have a little event on June 25th, which is Sunday, I believe it is, at 11 o'clock up at the 68 Pomeroy Meadow Road, which is known as Lower Pomeroy Meadow, which is the other watershed protection area, not too far up from the school. Just going to be a natural meadow that is growing there. It's going to be mowed only once a year. There's some birdhouses there. There's been a walking path sort of created through the grass, bunch of wildflowers coming up naturally. So they're having a bit of a ceremony there just to educate people about what's happening. And that's at 11 o'clock on June 25th. So anybody who would like to stop by, please do. And then lastly, just to say that this is actually our last meeting before we have two very important people retiring. So Chief John Workman, after 10 years of service to Southampton, and Joan Linehan, our COA director, after about 6 years of service to the town, are both retiring on June 29th. So we will figure out a little something to do for them, but nonetheless, I just wanted to extend thanks on behalf of the select board and the town for all the work that you've put in all the years and trials and tribulations that you've had to go through to run the fire EMS and EMD department as well as the COA. And we very much appreciate your service to the town and hope that your future time will be somewhat more relaxing and maybe a little bit less hectic than it has been. At least you won't be on a schedule like you have been with town. So best of luck to both of you as you pursue your retirement activities and hobbies, whatever those might be. All right. Old business. Anything to report on, Ed, on old business under those items?
No.
I don't think we've got anything coming up yet.
Just under old business, can we add on there, just so it's on there, tracking the town administrator search?
Oh, yeah, yep, we can put that on.
I know we're not going to act on it until July, but
Yep,
out of sight, out of mind.
yep, thank you. Okay. All right, then we will go down to some personnel change forms. We have quite a number of them, so John, you want to lead through a couple of these? Or?
Yeah, do we have the originals? Because I know the PPP made a bunch of notes on the originals. Do we have them or no?
You do?
Oh, what a pain I am. We do have them. Would you like them?
Sure. Pass them down. My memory is not that good. It was last Thursday.
Mine isn't either.
Thanks. So I think we can probably do some of these in groups. We'll go by department. So the first one is a PRF to approve the posting for an assistant town accountant, 20 hours a week, funded by the general fund, $18.94 per hour. The only adjustment that was made was, I believe, in the summary, and it was adding a line that says the anticipated hourly rate will be $17.94, because the posting is $17.85 to $29.50. That's the range. We wanted to clarify by adding a sentence of anticipated hourly rate of $18.94, which matches the budget that was approved. So set the expectation before we get applications thinking they're going to be able to get $28 an hour. That was the only change to that one. Otherwise, it was approved by the committee.
Okay.
I'll make that as a motion to approve it.
Okay, motion to approve the assistant town accountant, is that right?
Yes.
All right.
Second.
Second by Joy, okay. Any questions? All right, and I take it we've had a resignation of our current person? She's left?
I think we already accepted that.
We did, okay. All right, so we have a vacancy here, and here it is. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you.
Next is the Assessor's Office, a PCF, to continue the temporary appointment not to exceed 12 weeks of David Zagorski. I'm telling you, Smith and Jones. Continuation of the interim principal assessor. The only change here is that we made it effective June 15th, 2023, which is when the current one that he's under expires. They had a date of May 25th. Other than that, there were no other changes made to it.
All right, we have a motion, could I have a second?
Second.
Joy, second, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you.
And then Council on Aging, we'll do these separately. Motion to approve the PCF for Darlene
Machioka? Darlene Machioka.
Macholka. This is a new position, or she's taking a new position at $16.67 an hour. Initially, and then it's initially to be funded by the state formula. Not the PCF that was submitted to us had the general fund, but the current Council on Aging Director indicated that it was going to be the state formula to start with because it's not budgeted. It's not within the general fund budget allocation that was approved.
And this is a 4 hours a week by the looks, right?
Correct. Part-time, non-benefited.
Oh, this actually, yeah, replaces the person, there was a person in that position before.
Right, they eliminated the position when they created the new one, went a whole budget cycle, and then they want to bring it back.
Okay.
But those hours are not in the general fund calculation.
So this will be
line
funded
item.
by their grant?
Correct.
Okay, got it. All right. So we have a motion, or you want to do all of those, or do you want to?
Well, okay, so the next one was for Catherine DeSanto, and this is a change from volunteer coordinator to outreach worker, going from 10 hours to 18 hours, and going from $17 to $20.50. PPP approved it pending receipt of a resignation letter from her as the volunteer coordinator. Otherwise, it would trigger benefits.
Okay.
And then we have the COA volunteer coordinator. And I believe, again, the only change was in there was to add the line of anticipated starting hourly rate to match the budget.
And this is a PRF on that one?
Right, to post.
To post it, right, okay.
I have a question on the Catherine DeSanto.
Yep.
It's coming from ARPA funds?
No, there's state formula grant.
State formula grant.
Oh, because what I have is,
They also got ARPA funds separately, though.
oh, they're separate, okay, thank
They
you
have
for
theirs
clarifying. They're
earmarked
separate,
through the
okay,
legislature.
yeah, okay.
They have their different funds, yep.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yep, okay, so we have a motion for the three. Did I hear a second? Did I hear a second? Somebody second those?
Sec-
Okay, Dan, second, all right. For the three for the Council on Aging, okay, any discussion? All right, if not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Police Department,
Okay. Resignation of Daniel Covington as a police officer, taking a position with another department of full-time capacity, effective May 19th. We also have a PCF for a Daniel Hurley, and that is going to a full-time status from part-time status. It's 37 and a half hours, grade 2 at $27.40 per hour. And I believe this, and this one is effective upon receipt by the chief of a certification of the MPTC waiver. So that is imminent, but it won't take effect until the chief has that in hand.
okay.
And I believe this one has an accompanying letter of support from the union authorizing a different starting rate than step one based on experience and time.
Right.
Okay?
Okay,
And we have a PCF for Anthony Yon, and this is up to 19 and a half hours, part-time, initial pay rate of $19.25, which is the starting rate.
and this is a dispatch one, or is this?
This is
No.
part-time police officer.
Part-time police, okay,
As Daniel moves up, Anthony moves into Daniel's
got it,
spot.
okay.
And we also have, moving into a part-time, up to 19 and a half non-benefited, is Dominic Rachimith?
Mark, I don't know, Rockmatcheff?
Okay,
I'm not sure, I don't know that name, sorry, apologize ahead of time.
up to 19 and a half, initial pay $19.25, and that is effective upon approval of the select board.
Okay,
And we have Daniel Webster, part-time, non-benefited dispatcher, up to 19 and a half hours, step 8 at $22 an hour, and, yeah, effective, again, upon approval. That's dispatch. And last for the police department is permission to post for a PRF for a full-time police officer, effective, or starting date July 1st, between $25.49 to $32.82 per hour for 38.67 hours per week as an average. This is the position that was approved within the override.
okay,
That's it for the police department.
yep,
Second?
all right. Okay, those motions all made by John, second by Dan. Any comments or questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
We have the water department, PCF for the current water department superintendent, effective July 1st, 2023, a 3% increase to his annual compensation per his employment service agreement. And then we have a belt and suspenders approach next. We have a request to post for an interim water superintendent. The change here is the pay scale. We wanted to reflect the hourly range that is approved, so it's $33.08 per hour to $54.68 per hour, not to exceed 20 hours, to make it a non-benefited position. and the total expense not to exceed $50,000. And this is in the event that there is a delay in identifying a new water and superintendent to take over. They have the ability to put an interim in if they're continuing to search, because the next PRF is for the permanent water department superintendent.
Okay.
And again, going off the pay scale, the PRF is between $80,000 and $114,390.56, which matches the pay scale that we previously approved. And then this annual, or budgetary expense not to exceed $100,000.
Okay, so this is the PRF for the permanent
Permanent, yep.
water superintendent. Okay, great, all right. All right, could we have a second, please?
Second.
Dan, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all those are approved, thank you.
And that's
Great.
it.
Great,
Good job.
all right, and you've got your notes on those various things as I sign them, yep?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Great. All right, next we have, some licenses and permits. We have a one-day wine and malt for Becky Plimpton at Conant Pavilion, July 8th, from 4 to 8 p.m. for a birthday party. A one-day wine and malt for Caitlin Petta, also at Conant Pavilion, July 9th, from noon to 5 for a birthday party. Another one for one-day wine and malt for Tim Huber and Kathy Marks, Conant Pavilion, July 22nd, from 1 to 7, wedding reception. And then a one-day wine and malt for Jenny Hutchison at Conant Pavilion on August 6th, from 11 to 5. And looks like all the paperwork was here. They've paid their fees to the Park Commission. I really hope that Parks will get their little permit, though, updated with the fees on it, rather than scribbling off on handwritten stuff of what the fee is. I think it just looks more professional to do it that way. And then we're sure that we get the right amount of fees, because we've got an in-town fee and an out-of-town fee. So hopefully they can take that up and just make a few little revisions. So we have those 4 licenses and permits. Anybody have any comments, questions on those?
You need a second?
All right, yes, could we have a second, please?
Second.
All right, I will open it up then, and we will take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right, those are all 4 approved, very good. Great. Okay, so, Stephen, next is you. And all you need to do, which you have to for, is just say, warrant 2340B, $1,500, and this. You just read this, that's all you have.
Right.
Yeah, but
These are the ones I've already signed.
Yeah, you've already signed them, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Move final approval?
Wonder if
Yeah,
they
no,
were in that
the
pile.
approvals, you're just announcing it, they've already been approved, essentially.
All right, the
We're
warrants.
just announcing.
The warrants already paid.
Yep,
W23-40B in the amount of $1,500, vendor payable. W23-40V, offsetting that in the same amount. W23-46, $926,030.41.
and that's
Vendor
for,
payable
yeah. And that includes the vocational tuition on that one, yeah.
with vocational tuition. PD 23-47A in the amount of $164,666.07, payroll deduction warrant with retirement. PD 23-47S in the amount $160.49, payroll deduction warrant. W23-48 in the amount of $722,502.03, vendor payable warrant. P 23-49 in the amount of $321,328.94, payroll warrant. PD 23-49 in the amount of $51,642.01, payroll deduction warrant. And last, W 2350 in the amount of $1,813,290.29. vendor
Okay.
payable with warrant.
All right, very good, thanks. Anybody have any questions on any of these expenses? I had a couple that if nobody else does, I will, but, and Ed, you maybe can answer these or help answer these. Just on 2348, just looks like we've got a large amount for, I assume it's some electrical expenses for the ambulance EMS line and also for the fire department trailer. So I assume this is
Yeah.
not the
Not the UTV
Not the UTV trailer?
But the mobile quarters
Okay.
trailer and the fire headquarters.
Okay, all right. There were a couple of other ARPA ones, but we'll wait to hear about that on Bradley's report, I think. And then just a note too, I think on 2346, again, ambulance fees, we've got 5,500 out to Easthampton Fire Department, so that's about 11 calls for the month. Bradley informed me it was for months of March and April, so 11 calls that we weren't able to capture ourselves.
My memory was there was 4 in March and I think 7 in April.
Okay, all right. All right. Guess that was it. I had a couple of other smaller ones, ARPA ones, but no big deal, I guess, at this point in time. Okay. Great. All right, next, any pending items, information? We've got to work on that. We put in the information for the Green Community Grant to Eversource, but we haven't heard back from them yet, have we?
No, we have not.
Okay. And then the Water Department Pomeroy Road acquisition, obviously, this is part of the conservation restrictions that we signed tonight.
Yes, we're getting closer.
Right, and we do need to still do the hazard mitigation plan statement of work and get that bid out.
Yes, we do.
And then just to find out if we know anything more on the classification study, if you could really just see if they could chomp down on some dates for us by our next meeting so we really understand where that is. I think we're all counting on this personnel classification study to come through and give us a bit of clarity about how we can set up some consistent and favorable pay scales here in town and be competitive at the same time with our surrounding neighbors. All right, we have next select board meetings on July 11th and July 18. And at this point in time, we're going to go into a short executive session for, okay, I think the other one didn't make it on here. MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, COA. I had another one somewhere, but it maybe fell off. It was to approve minutes for March 28th, but maybe it fell off. It's not, I thought it was on here, but I don't see it on my written one. So anyway.
I thought I had added that too.
I thought we did too, but we just have one set of minutes from March 28th to approve. So this time I'll take a motion to adjourn public session and we will move into an executive session, but we're planning on returning as soon as we're done.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Second by Joy. Roll call vote, please.
Lumber, aye.
Johnson, aye.
Fowles, aye.
Piper, aye.
Lavelle, aye.
Okay. We are adjourned at about 8:43. All right. Thank you. All right. Okay, the Southampton Select Board is returning from executive session back into open session at about 9:30. And at this point in time, based on our discussions, I would like to make a motion that we offer the position of the Council on Aging Director to Christina Johnson, pending her acceptance of the salary and benefit offer and successful query and reference checks, and that furthermore, we authorize the town administrator to begin that process.
I'll second that.
All right, second by Joy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Okay, and I think that's all that we had for business in open session.
Move to
Take a motion
adjourn.
to adjourn the open session for good.
Moved.
Joy, moved, second.
Second?
John, second. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.